Good day, everybody. Dave Walker here again with the B to SMB Institute for our Best to SMB conference. And as promised, we've invited senior leadership from some of our nominee brands to come talk about their businesses. And in the category of Best to SMB brand for 2021, Gusto has been nominated by our Leaders League and by our Influencer Circle. So I'm really thrilled to greet Alyssa Harvey Dawson, who's the Chief Legal Officer for Gusto. Welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you. And, I think that a large population within our audience knows who Gusto is, but we've had so many new members join in the last few months. I'd love it if you would just give kind of the 411 on Gusto, and then please feel free to talk about yourself as well.
Okay, yeah, so my two favorite things. So first I'll start with Gusto. Gusto is almost 10 years old, and we serve more than 200,000 SMB customers throughout the United States across every industry. And so we started with payroll because every business needs it, but our desire was to be much more than payroll and much more than a functional tool. We wanted to be an advisor and a partner that businesses trust and can use to build great places to work and ultimately successful businesses. And so over the past several years, we added on many more services to help businesses to hire, pay, insure, and support their teams. And this included health insurance, 401k, expert HR, as well as hiring and onboarding and other team management tools. And more recently, we did some acquisitions. It was a fun summer. So we acquired companies like Ardius, which helps businesses to identify and secure free capital that they've qualified for in the form of R&D tax credits. We also, that was a fun one. And we also acquired Symmetry Software. And Symmetry is a longtime leader in payroll infrastructure technology. And I'm sure many businesses, business owners, I should say, can relate because it's often too complex to stay up to date with all the regulations and compliance needed to operate a business. And so penalties and fines have become so common that business owners plan for those fines in their annual budgets, if you can imagine that. So what Gusto and Symmetry are teaming up together to do is to help those businesses avoid costly payroll mistakes. And all of this, everything that we do is designed to help SMB owners have more peace of mind and ultimately make it easier to spend more time doing what they wanted to do, which was run their business and take care of their teams and spend a lot less time on back office work.
What I've appreciated about Gusto over the last 10 years, kind of watching the arc of growth, is how sensibly expansive you guys have been in the form of, if we're going to do this one particular thing, this task of payroll really well with all of its complexities, are small businesses not inviting us in actually to do more? And the short answer is, of course they are, because they need those kinds of trusted partners. You haven't been with the company that long. What was it particularly that attracted you as a senior leader to Gusto?
Yeah, so I joined Gusto about 14 months ago. So not that long, but I did pass my first year anniversary. And the first thing that comes to mind when you ask me that is the mission. The mission just really drew me in. The mission as I was seeing it, empowering the underserved elements of our society really resonated with me. And then once I understood the products and solutions and services, I realized the potential impact, or actually the impact that Gusto is actually having. And I thought that the company would have impact that goes well beyond what one might think the products and services would be. So what I was talking about in terms of going beyond payroll, beyond the benefits, it's the financial wellness that we offer. It's that, as I said, peace of mind. Because what we do at Gusto is focused on enabling our small businesses to pursue their passions, serving their employees well by providing them the ability to have great experiences and security. And so we want to take that complex out of operating a business and let people do what they wanted to do, which is pursue a dream, pursue a livelihood. And so that was the second thing. And then I would say the third thing that really resonated with me and impressed me was just the company, how it operated, the culture. And I saw that expressed through the values. And now that I've been here, these values are lived. And two that stand out to me that I've really noticed since I've been here. First, I would say embodying a service mindset. Like that means never stop advocating for the needs of others. That's literally what we do. And then I think the second one is embracing an ownership mentality. And that's where you're taking that initiative to leave things better than you found them. And every day we're trying to figure out how can we make things easier, better, simpler for all of our customers.
And I think I'm probably old school in this regard. I think that internal mission actually is always reflected in the outer brand, in the brand that's kind of cast out to the world. What, just by sheer force of the execution of that mission internally, it comes through in the external brand.
I think so too. Because our mission is about work empowering a better life. And everything that we do, everything that we talk about, we've just gone through some strategy sessions, is centered on how are we doing that? Are we doing that well enough? How can we do that better? And yeah, that speaks to what the brand is about and what we want people to see and feel when they experience the brand, when they experience Gusto in any interactions.
When I first saw that, work empowering a better life, I'd never heard it before, but I have known it to be true ever since I started working. When you first encountered it as a kind of a mission statement, did you kind of have that same kind of, wow, this is actually pretty extraordinary in how richly it can inform how we do business?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And as we elaborated and said, okay, what's that mean? What does that mean? How do we embody that? First of all, one way that we do is we build products that enable peace of mind, right? Again, making it easy for people to join and build great teams and stay compliant. Get rid of those penalties. You don't want those. No one does. How can we help? The other is about, I think, having that great place to work. Most of us have to work for a living. I do. And you want to do it and you want to feel great about it. You want to go in and be happy. It's a large chunk of your time, right? And so what we want to do is help companies transform work into a community where people feel connected, valued, energized. And ultimately, that third thing, personal prosperity, is another way that that empowering better life is embodied in what we do in our products that we build, because we want to help people grow and plan for a better future that goes beyond work.
Do you think small businesses think differently about their employees than large businesses think about their employees?
I think small businesses care about their employees just like large businesses do. They don't always have the same resources, right? I've had the benefit and fortune of working for really, large companies through my entire career. I worked for Netflix. I worked with Sidewalk Labs, which is one of the Alphabet companies. I worked for Autodesk, and then large law firms. And at each of those companies, I think about all of the work that was done behind the scenes by great, intelligent, professionals to help it run and operate. When you're in a small business, you don't have that same machinery. You can't afford it. You don't have those resources. Either, dozens, hundreds of people that are making that work. That's not what you're going to do as a small business. That doesn't mean you care about your people less. It doesn't mean you don't want your people to have, the same benefits, the same care, payroll on time, no penalties. You just have to figure out how to do that with a lot fewer resources, but you still care about it. And so that's what we want to give to those businesses, the small businesses, is that semblance, that same resource rich environment, so that you can take care of the people and enable them to have a great experience at work too.
And does their use of Gusto, or specifically of Gusto, does it help them feel better about accomplishing that desire on their part to treat their associates really well?
Yes, we certainly hope so. Like that is our goal. We want them to feel great about the environment that they're creating for their employees. We want the employees to feel great about working for their employer. We want it to be symbiotic.
Talk a little bit about, and you've been there for 14 out of the 16 or 17 months of the pandemic.
Oh
I
my
I'm
goodness.
sure that right after you arrived, you were like, wait a minute. I just started a major new assignment, and at the very beginning of this pandemic. But talk a little bit about the deliverables that Gusto really focused on in the last 18 months. What were the needs that basically your small business customers and even your small business community as a whole you thought really needed and that you tried to address?
Yeah. So, I was gonna say post pandemic. I guess we're not there yet. Pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, our mission is the same in that we're
Mhm.
trying to serve small businesses. And so we're consistent with that. And when the pandemic hit and it was clear that there would be an impact, um, as COVID has had on so many of us, we knew that we needed to add to that a little bit by making sure that we were focused on how to help companies survive
Mhm.
through a pandemic. Um, and what COVID showed was how relevant what we do matters.
Mhm.
So many businesses turn to Gusto as the platform that they use to hire, pay, insure, and take care of their teams, as I've been talking about.
Mhm.
And so, what we figured out and what we're continuing to do is we want to continue to expand the value and services that we provide directly in the product and through our ecosystem of multiple integrations that are available through our
Mhm.
platforms. Um, with the pandemic, we also realized is that we needed to meet this moment. And so we wanted to become not only a tool that businesses use, but we wanted to be an advisor that they
Mhm.
trusted and relied upon. And so COVID created chaos for small businesses, for so many of us, but certainly for small businesses. And so we responded by building even more easy to use tools and features to help them navigate. So, for instance, since COVID took hold in March of 2020, which it's crazy for me to even say that and how long it's
Mhm.
been, um, Gusto shipped more than 100 new features designed to
Mhm.
help get vital lifelines and aid through tax credits. We created a dedicated small business COVID-19 research hub. It's the most comprehensive resource for SMBs. So much information was out there. How do we collect it, collate it, and make it usable was the goal. We worked on Social Security tax deferral. Thousands of customers have opted in to use it in the first week. Our streamlined PPP application report is also something that we did. And
Mhm.
so we even enable businesses to pause and defer payments so they could continue to operate and manage their cash flow to recover.
Mhm.
And so we built tools to help them as they reopen and rebuild their teams. Recently, I think we rolled out a new suite of hiring and onboarding tools to help them do this quickly and effectively. And so it's been kind of amazing to get feedback from customers about how some of the tools and things we've offered really help them survive and help them move on and help recover with their businesses. And it turns out that 2020 was like a record year for new businesses. Isn't that so interesting?
Mhm.
I think the Census Bureau data showed like more than 4.3 million new businesses were created last year. And we're capturing a huge part of that growth as these modern businesses turn to Gusto.
I heard I have a good friend who works at Fidelity, and Fidelity's done some research on small business growth that kind of goes beyond the census data. Demonstrated that basically there's only one time in history where there's been more new businesses created in the United States, and that was the first 3 years after the Depression. And it's interesting that it's that crisis, it's that
Crisis.
that is a crucible for actually forming all of these new entrepreneurs. And obviously in raw volume, this last 18 months has to be larger than post depression, but it's really fascinating and presents really frankly just this potentially a population of maybe 6-7 million new businesses that
Right.
are being formed in the last 12 months, next 12 months. What a huge opportunity to kind of be in the space.
Yeah, I
So
think so. That's right.
I want to switch tracks a little bit. You mentioned, one of the things that you were attracted to at Gusto was its kind of core value of serving the underserved, particularly in the small business space. And arguably, small businesses, one could make the case, no matter who they are underserved just as a whole class. But then within small businesses, minority-owned small businesses, women-owned small businesses, urban small businesses, rural small businesses, all can lay claim to having some measure of, and I'm sure it's a point of pride, some measure of being underserved. How do you envision addressing that going forward, as we have all become, using the tired word woke, but as we've all become far more aware of how uneven our customer base of small businesses has been served, and if we're honest, by all of us, how do we go about fixing that, and how do we go about addressing that?
Yeah, one of the things that we started to do, and got into more fulsomely during the pandemic, was policy and advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out and understanding that there did not seem to be a consistent voice for small businesses, certainly for businesses that were run by minority-owned businesses, about what was really needed during this time. And so we worked to coalesce, work with other businesses, and certainly with Washington and different legislative initiatives, to actually start to advocate more fulsomely on behalf of small businesses and advocate for things that would be needed to make things more equitable and more fair. And so a key focus point for us, whether that's doing op-eds, whether that's doing letters to Congress, is basically putting together those coalitions and talking points that give people the data and information and insights that we need, which we get based on, how many businesses we're serving, over 200,000, to give that better information and insight to Congress to enable us to come up with ways that are going to be more aptly addressed to those underserved businesses. And so advocacy is a big piece of it. And so we're going to continue to work on lobbying for changes to create a more equitable system that all businesses get, and not just the big corporations, and certainly all underserved, all businesses that are run by underserved people can get access to as well.
And we're your active partner in advancing that cause. I think that I frankly was ashamed at how little I knew about advocacy on behalf of small business 18 months ago, and found the same kind of feeling amongst so many executives from large businesses, small business brands, that, boy, here's our customer base, for crying out loud, and we know very little about what goes into the policies that affect them, the initiatives that help them. We just don't know enough. And so I think the last 18 months has been all about awareness and actually creating initiatives like the ones that you guys have been so instrumental in driving. Are you, from where you sit, are you bullish on the success we will have in helping, at least, to fix the disparities that have existed for so long?
I am, because I feel like there's energy behind it. You just talked about your eyes being opened, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think once you open your eyes and people see, that has generated attention and a drive and a knowledge that we can do better. And I think that's going to carry us. This pandemic is quite a hit, but it also has come with some revelations that I don't think we can look away from anymore. And I think that's going to continue to drive us. And we're certainly there. And we've seen that from the people we partner with, including your institute, that it's going to keep moving forward because there's more work to be done. So yeah, I'm really energized by it, and think that it's something we can't turn back now.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear you say that. And that last point, we can't turn back. I mean, we can't, there's no possibility of going back to keeping your head in the sand on this. Has been an incredibly important issue, right?
Yeah.
So are you, as we kind of wrap up, and this has been absolutely terrific, I really do believe that it's the reason why you guys were nominated was because your brand actually does walk the talk of really being partners, advisors on the path with small businesses, which I think is just critical ingredients to success going forward. Are you, I guess, now what? Now what is, as you look forward in the next 3 years as a leader of Gusto, how are you thinking about what will happen, what should happen, really in the whole small business ecosystem and those who serve it?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, we're about empowering lives and livelihoods, and we just fundamentally believe in aligned success. So
Mm-hmm.
we can't and shouldn't be successful unless people that we serve are successful, including our
Mm-hmm.
customers and our employees. And as I was saying, that just manifests itself in how we build our products, how we advocate for our customers, and ultimately the problems that we set out to solve. We need to understand our customer pain points. That's where everything starts for us. And then it's about how can we solve them? How can we alleviate? And so some of the things that, we want to help solve is what we were talking about a little bit, establishing a system that equitably supports every business,
Mm-hmm.
and not just corporate America. For so long, SMBs just haven't received the matching level of support based on the
Mm-hmm.
impact that they deliver to every community across America and the
Mm-hmm.
national economy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're working hard to change. We talk about expanding access to affordable health coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Many SMBs take it as a source of pride to offer health insurance to employees. And so we're working in product to simplify the process. And again, lobbying for additional economic solutions to make that easier for businesses to provide health coverage for their employees.
Mm-hmm.
Other things that we think about are eliminating predatory banking practices.
Mm-hmm.
So employers that work or employees that work at bigger businesses have access to special benefits that provide early access to wages, specialized savings accounts, and other tools. We've created something like Gusto Wallet, so employees aren't forced to turn to predatory payday loans when an
Mm-hmm.
emergency happens, and other tools that can help support like that stronger financial health. And ultimately, when we think about it, or when I think about it, and the power of Gusto is that we can enhance these generational outcomes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Again, with historically underserved communities, entrepreneurship is a path to increase generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're focused on making it easier to start and successfully run a business through our product and all of our initiatives. At the end of the day, when I think about, as you were saying, sort of what we would do next, what's next for Gusto in small business is just intrinsically linked,
Mm-hmm.
because we exist to solve their pain points.
Mm-hmm.
And as we look ahead to kind of this new world, in addition to some of the things I was just talking about, what's a huge challenge is talent strategy, right? What does it look like in this interesting new world that we're in, where we're in a hybrid model and remote work is suddenly a thing? Certainly it is for Gusto. We have a lot more remote workers than we did before. And we know we're not alone. We know that that's what's going on with our customers. And so we continue to hear about the mismatch and the gap that exists between talent and jobs available. And the trend is that it's especially harder for SMBs that don't have access to the same resources. Again, we talked about resources that are available to big companies and not to the smaller ones. And so we're focused on simplifying access to talent in different markets, domestically and internationally, hiring and onboarding remotely, and ultimately helping businesses to build great places to work. And so we're all about trying to build a system that just better serves small business. So much of the resources and the time and attention, corporate bailouts, goes to corporate America, despite the outsized impact that SMBs play in every community. And so we're going to continue to work on doing what we can to lobby for changes that create that more equitable system.
So it just makes me want to put some sort of pencil to paper and calculate, if you could successfully accomplish all the things that you just described, what would be the overall macroeconomic impact? I have to believe that it would dwarf anything you could do with the Fortune 1000. That really truly enabling the workforce and their employers that exist within the small business category would just be hugely impactful. So.
No, I think so, right? SMBs represent 98% of employers in the United States.
Right. and getting that right and lifting that population of employees that work for small business is obviously going to lift the entire economy in a dramatic way.
Absolutely.
This has been
That's why I
terrific.
came here. I think I love being in this space, and any small part that I and Gusto can play in that, that's what invigorates me. And
Well,
that's what
listen,
invigorates Gusto.
I'll say it on behalf of our Leaders League and our Influencer Circle. We are really glad you're there. We're really glad that as a company and you as an executive leader are there, because we all passionately care about small business. And while we had different degrees of awareness when the pandemic started, I will tell you the uniformity of awareness and of passion for helping small business has grown enormously across our 4,000 members. And now they're all just looking for ways in which to kind of hook in and really make their contribution with all the different talents and capabilities that they represent. Thank you so much for doing this. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, Alyssa.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Thank you for having me. It's been a good chat.
Thanks.